Alright everyone, welcome to Friday's video. I hope everything is good and you're looking forward to the weekend. Even if it's pretty cold wherever you are, you have my sympathies. Listen, there's no time to feel sorry for yourself. Things are very good at the moment. Yes, Rangers dropped more points last night. A 1-1 draw for them away to Dundee. And I think they were pretty fortunate even to get a draw from that game. Some interesting VAR decisions, let's just say. Means that they have now dropped points in their last 4 away games. In fact, we're the only team they've beaten in their last 5 games. So work that one out. Regardless of that result at Ibrox, we are in a very good place in the Premiership for 4 in a row. We sit 15 points clear of Rangers. We've dropped 7 points in more than half of this season. So clearly us dropping more than double that in our final 17 matches and Rangers having to win virtually every game seems pretty unlikely. So it's fair to say that 4 in a row is looking pretty good. So much so that I've noticed some things online. People already earmarking the next derby against Rangers at Celtic Park in mid-March as a potential clincher. That's the 9th last game of the league season. So we'd need to be, I think, 22 to 27 points clear of them to be able to officially clinch it that day. That's the kind of spread. 22 points to 27. Obviously, as I say, 15 clear at the moment. So could we gain another 7 points on them between now and then? Who knows? The reality is that it doesn't massively matter. I think the real thing is that if Celtic just keep winning games like the team have tended to do with a couple of blips, one real blip this entire season in the derby, if we keep winning games, this will be over relatively soon. And that's a pretty wild thing to be able to say on the 10th of January. It's a hell of a lead we've got. Yeah, everyone kind of knows we're going to win the league, but let's try and do it in style and let's just keep going. And obviously the European stuff's going on alongside that as well. So that's going to keep motivation and excitement going for as long as we're in the competition, and obviously a chance to get the treble as well. So it's a very good time to support Celtic. Even better when you look across the city and they just appear just to be stumbling from disaster to disaster. As I say, I watched the game against Dundee, and I thought Dundee were the better team. Like Rangers, I thought were pretty fortunate to get the point. And as I say, Dundee had a couple of, debatable moments that I thought went against them. I'd like to see the offside again. I thought they could potentially have had a penalty in the first half, and I think that was the move that actually led to Rangers' equaliser. So Rangers were pretty fortunate to get the point. Celtic are very good, Rangers aren't. Let's just enjoy this because it's going to continue for a good bit longer. Okay, got a good few things to tackle today, starting with a few of your comments from the Wednesday night win over Dundee United. Glad to see Stevie getting pelters for his decision to stay at home, miss the game and instead eat milk chocolate battens from Hotel Chocolat. Particularly enjoyed this exchange in the comments. Started with John Sutherland saying, Stevie has great memories of games gone past. The reply from Andy H, he'll have great memory of last night's game, sitting in the house, eating chocolates. Elsewhere, we have Curly's pointing out that we have only conceded 6 goals from the 30th of November. And they all came against Rangers, says, thought that was interesting. It is interesting. 9 clean sheets from our last 11 games and 3 goals conceded in the other 2 matches, both against Rangers. So it's a bit of a kind of strange run we're on in that regard. And the defence is doing very well. 9 clean sheets in 11 games is great, but when they play Rangers, something seems to happen. But we'll keep an eye on that going forward. A lot of really good clean sheets in recent games when you consider we've been to Pataudry, Tannadice, we've been to Zagreb, kept clean sheets in all of those games. Not really looked threatened in those games either. It's not as if we're keeping clean sheets and Kasper Schmeichel's making unbelievable saves. Generally, they're quite comfortable clean sheets. So, yep. And I was looking actually, since we conceded our 7 goals in Dortmund a long time ago, we've actually only conceded 12 goals since that 7th Dortmund one went in. and that's across 22 games. I mean, you consider 6 of them have been in the games against Rangers, and we've had Champions League matches against Bruges and Leipzig and Atalanta and Zagreb. To only have conceded 12 goals since Dortmund, I think, is pretty impressive. Right, we've got Robin Lau saying, I think people forget there's no winter break. We usually come back from the winter break raring to go. No break to reset makes a big difference, so I agree a couple of new players might inject life into us again. Regardless, we're doing good. Certainly a good point. It's one that I've been thinking of a lot recently as well, that Celtic tend to get a real lease of life coming out of these winter breaks. You think back, and I know last season was a bit of an exception, and I guess the COVID season was as well when everything went wrong. But generally, like especially Brendan Rodgers' first spell at the club, maybe the kind of December, early January stuff wouldn't be amazing football. There'd be a lot of single goal victories. And to be fair, like this year, there's not really. We've still won most games quite comfortably. So I think it's probably harsh to say it's been the same as the Invincible season, for example. I'd need to go and check the results. But basically, you do see Celtic go into the winter break in Dubai or wherever, and we come back and suddenly we're battering teams again. So clearly it does give the team a bit of a boost, a chance to recharge, etc. And we've not got that this year. So the team really have to kind of find a way to fight through this period, and they're doing that well. I really think they're doing well. They're as I say, winning games comfortably, not really looking threatened in a lot of games, not conceding goals unless they're playing against Rangers. And really, if you take that Ibrox game out of things, we would all be absolutely delighted with where things are going. Just think it's a tricky period for everyone, this. We've not got the glitz and glamour of the Champions League to get us all excited. And those have kind of been the games this season that have got everyone excited. And we've kind of built our season around the Champions League games in a weird way. And obviously at the moment we don't, but the Champions League's back now in less than 2 weeks, at 12 days, something like that. We play Young Boys. So I think once we get to that game, we'll all be like fully kind of back into things as well. But yeah, I think other than Ibrox, it's been a pretty faultless period, and that period of domestic games every few days just continues tomorrow when we make the trip way up north to Dingwall to take on Ross County. It's forecasted to be sunny but very cold in Dingwall. It could still be in the minuses come kick-off. The pitch at the Global Energy Stadium has struggled a bit in recent weeks. You may have seen highlights of a Ross County Hearts game, I think 10 or 11 days ago, when the pitch was a bit waterlogged, and by the end of the match it was in a hell of a state. Hopefully it's faring a little bit better now. There's not been a game on it since then, and as I say, there's no rain forecast, I don't think, either on Friday or Saturday ahead of the game, so it's dry but very cold. They do have undersoil heating, so I'm certainly hopeful about the game being on. County have had really good ticket sales in the lead up to this game, and part of that may be because their team is in real good form. They've taken 10 points from their last possible 12 in the league, 3 away wins in there. They've gone to Dundee, Aberdeen and Kilmarnock, and won all of those games, as well as the 2-2 draw at home to Hearts. So I think we're facing one of the league's informed teams, and we only have to go back a few months to remember how tough it can be going up to Dingwall. That was a real challenge for us after the Dortmund game, and we went behind there. I think from memory it was the first domestic goal, or first league goal that we'd conceded all season, and fought back in the second half through goals from was it Alistair Johnson, the first one? It's kind of a weird one, and then Nicholas Kuhn's late goal. That was a tough game. It may be something similar tomorrow. We may be without Nicholas Kuhn. Fair chance that we are. We'll find out more, I guess, from Brendan Rodgers later on Friday. But I've not gone for Kuhn in my predicted 11. So I'm going for Schmeichel, Johnston, Carter Vickers, Trusty and Valle, who I now just put in every single predicted 11. I do think Valle will come in for this one. Midfield, I'm going McGregor, Engels, Bernardo coming back in. Kind of has to be Yang on the right, given that James Forrest is out, and obviously I'm assuming Kuhn will be as well. Maeda on the left and Furuhashi through the middle. So yeah, an interesting team. Players I want to see there. We've kind of not seen as much of Bernardo starting in recent games, and Valle and Kyogo, I guess. So a few players back in for this one, and I think we should be all right tomorrow. It's a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday. Don't feel like we've had many of them recently, and the game is live on Sky Sports. But we're far from done for today's video. Let's turn attention to transfers now. And Celtic have confirmed that Stephen Welsh has joined Belgian Pro League side KV Mechelen. Someone corrected me earlier in the week. I believe it's Mechelen. On loan until the end of the season. Obviously, this isn't real news to us. It had been spoken about for a good few days, but it has happened now. He could make his debut for KV Mechelen this weekend against Cercle Brugge. And that'll only happen though if his work permit goes through in time. If not, it could be next week against Hyunwoo Oh's Genk. And I saw he scored a pretty good goal midweek, I think, in the Cup for Genk. So potentially Welsh v O next week. But Welsh is away for now. Luis Palma looks set to leave too, heading on loan potentially to La Liga side Rayo Vallecano. Now, Estadio Deportivo say that the idea is for Palma to head out on loan with an option to buy included in the deal for around €2.5 million, I think just over £2 million. Palma's actually said to have already agreed terms with Vallecano. They had James Rodriguez on their books, but he, I think, has just left them. And I even saw some people saying that Palma could be a good replacement for him. Those people are in for a bit of a shock, I would say. Right, the big story that has been dominating stuff over the last 24 hours or so, maybe longer, is the chat about Kyogo Furuhashi potentially leaving and links to Atlanta United in the MLS. Now, we first heard about this, I think, prior to Christmas. The Daily Mail linked Kyogo with a £10 million transfer. I think they said that Atlanta had been keen on Kyogo in the summer, more keen even than Manchester City had been. Remember that stuff happened, but that Celtic had basically given them no encouragement in the summer. But there may be something happening here. And then on Wednesday, and this is a bizarre one, we had the official MLS website posting an article claiming that Atlanta United had acquired designated player striker Kyogo Furuhashi from, and you can't read the rest of that, but you get the gist. Now, this article was quickly taken down. I don't know as much about this because my game's more YouTube than websites, although I have written stuff in the past. But I believe that Google retains these articles, even if you like delete the thing from your own website, there'll still be like a trail on Google. Now, I believe, because I searched this earlier, and I believe it's now been removed from Google. But it remains on there for a wee while. So people were obviously coming across this and kind of going, what the hell is happening here? Why are the MLS, the official MLS website, why has it got an article saying that Atlanta United have signed Kyogo when we have literally heard nothing about it apart from some early rumours? To add further kind of complications to this, Atlanta, who are actually managed by Ronnie Dyla, of all people, did then announce the signing of a Japanese forward, but it wasn't Kyogo. It was a guy called Keiman Togashi, who I think was without a club, but had been playing in Japan. So it's all a bit messy. And then yesterday, in a statement issued to the PA, the MLS said, Major League Soccer's website mistakenly posted an article that named the wrong player as having signed with an MLS club. The article was immediately removed and corrected. MLS extends its sincere apologies to the impacted parties. So, yeah, that's kind of it. So, did they simply make a mistake and choose the wrong player? I guess with the links to Kyogo and Atlanta United, that is conceivable. I mean, if you think about it, if it's someone working here and they hear that Atlanta United have signed a Japanese player, and then they maybe Google Atlanta United Japanese striker and it comes up with links to Kyogo, maybe you make that mistake and just put it in. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't make that mistake personally, but we are dealing with Americans here. That's terrible. Apologies to any Americans watching. I I appreciate you all. But, yeah, so it seems like that could be what's happened here. But it also seems like there's other stuff going on, and obviously we've had the actual links from a pretty trusted source, I would say, between Kyogo and Atlanta United. And we know Atlanta United have signed from Celtic in the past. Georgios Giacomakis went there. He's no longer there, but it shows that they're aware of Celtic players. So it seems to kind of make sense here in many ways. And I'll be honest, I keep hearing things from various people and sources that this could be one that is happening. And I know, generally speaking, and I'm probably like this as well, the tendency is to shoot down these things. It's the media trying to upset Celtic when we're going so well, and Kyogo's going nowhere. Why would we sell him? I would be saying that people should probably kind of be bracing themselves for this. Bracing sounds a bit extreme, by the way, because I think generally there's a bit of an understanding that we all love Kyogo. You're not going to find a Celtic fan who doesn't love Kyogo. But also, I think he's just turned 30. His form hasn't been great this season, I think it's fair to say. Some would argue he's maybe not been a great fit under Brendan Rodgers entirely over the last 18 months, though he's still given us some good moments. Generally, some people might be looking at this going, right, if Kyogo leaves and we replace him with a really top striker, a bit of a game changer, a Moussa Dembele, an Odsonne Edouard, someone like that, then maybe that might not be the worst thing for all parties. And it's a difficult thing to get your head around, because obviously, as I say, we love Kyogo, and I can't remember a figure who's been so adored at Celtic in a long time. Genuinely, like the roar Kyogo gets, I assume it's still the same when his name's read out before every game, is still like the biggest one. But maybe it just makes sense at this stage for him to move on. Now, I'm actually kind of alright with that, to be honest, if Celtic were to let him go, as long as we obviously replaced him well. I mean, we can't be having Johnny Kenny and Adam Idah being our two forwards. Idah's still got a way to go. It needs to be a top striker that comes in to replace Kyogo if he does move on. Kyogo also can't be sold ahead of the Young Boys game and the Aston Villa game. That just can't happen, because we can't register any new signings for those games. So, and given how important the Young Boys game is, biggest game of the season without doubt, the biggest game we've had in Europe probably for a number of years. You can't afford to lose Kyogo before then. So, assuming Celtic were able to get someone in and potentially have someone lined up or even signed prior to any Kyogo departure, and as long as that departure came after our Champions League game, or certainly the Young Boys game if we win that, not as fussed about Villa. The Young Boys one is obviously the big opportunity. Then I could probably get on board with it. I think if Kyogo does leave, it will be because Celtic are okay with Kyogo moving on. I think that's an important point. And, there's maybe suggestions that Kyogo's kind of been fancying something new for a wee while now. I know he changed agency not so long ago. So, in summary, I think this is a serious rumour. I don't think this is just nonsense that's going to go away, a bit like the Man City stuff in the summer. I think there's a really good chance that Kyogo does leave in January. And as much as I love him, I don't think it's the absolute end of the world. Clearly, he'll take a hell of a lot of replacing. But I mean, so did Matt O'Reilly. And as much as Arnie Engels isn't there yet, I think he in time will be viewed as a pretty good replacement. And I know he's a different player to Matt O'Reilly, but obviously the way he was signed and all that kind of stuff, in many ways he was a replacement. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I'm sure you'll all have thoughts as well. Let us know in the comments. And enjoy the game tomorrow, and hopefully things go well. I'm predicting a Celtic victory. Might be tough, but I think we'll get the 3 points. And I will return at some stage after the game, depending on how tired I am, to look back on things.